This is Peter J. Pollack, MD, with another Medical Practice Trends podcast, and our guest today is Matt Coffey, CEO of Customer Bloom. Matt Coffey is on a mission to help professionals grow their businesses. He is the founder of Customer Bloom, a full-service digital marketing firm acknowledged as the top digital agency in northern New Jersey. Customer Bloom has a specialty area of concentration dedicated to serving the needs of medical and healthcare practitioners. His firm has helped hundreds of businesses and medical practices across the country and internationally since 2010. Matt's appeared on CNN and speaks at numerous industry events throughout each year, and his tutorials, blogs, and videos have attracted thousands of loyal listeners and viewers. Matt has authored the Ultimate Guide to Medical Practice Marketing book and runs the wildly popular Medical Practice Marketing podcast for 2017. Matt's a graduate of the University of Massachusetts, loving husband, father of two, living in New Jersey. He's an avid guitarist and singer, songwriter, and leader of his southern rock group, the Matt Coffey Band, and has warmed up for acts such as George Thorogood, Foghat, and Guess Who, Bob Weir, and many others. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, great! I'm gonna have to pay you for that intro. Boy, that was good.
Yeah. We may end up spending more time on the on the music part than anything else. So
that's cool.
How does a guy from northern New Jersey end up having a southern rock group?
Well, I've been doing that music business since I was in college, or even before in high school, and I've done lots of local touring, and I'm older now, obviously, so I don't have the bandwidth, and I have kids and stuff like that, so I get to go out every once in a while. But it just sort of crept up on us. It was something that, because of my relationships with the musicians, and I'm currently even working right now with Greg Allman's guitar player, or his posthumous guitar player, Scott Sherrard, and it's all Allman Brothers stuff. So I guess I kind of just like the genre, and just the musicians that have come around my world have always been in that space.
Very cool, very cool. Well, Tom Petty went to my high school, so that was always our big claim to fame. He went to Gainesville High School. So
cool.
So how did you get into marketing, and specifically what you're doing now?
Yeah, briefly. So I kind of grew up in the medical area. I was always involved in actually from childhood, because my father was involved in marketing and in specifically healthcare marketing, and I kind of grew up to that neck of the woods. And although I think when I started this practice, I'd been in corporate America for a long time, probably about 20 years too long, and I sort of decided somewhere around the early 2000 and 2008, 2009, that I was going to start my own shop. And I started working actually for a very large Fortune 10 company. And we kind of got into a point where I was helping design the marketing and sales structure. This wasn't necessarily a medical, but what ended up happening was I understood the sort of patient journey because of a lot of things that, obviously, as we grow older, we go through a lot of experiences in the medical field just from being in it. And I thought that I could tie the marketing together with my experiences just from a patient side. And it's worked really well. I started off, actually, my first client was my own dentist. And we took it from there. And basically, back 7 or 8 years ago when I first started out, the market was very, very immature, and it's amazing to see where it's gone now, what we were able to do now to help, with patient acquisition and patient strategies for, branding and so forth. But my thought was that, starting the agency was something that I wanted to do ever since I kind of grew through the corporate world, understood that, I had a lot of good sales skills. I'd managed very large territories. And so now, leap forward to 2017, we've got a growing medical marketing practice, and we've gotten through a lot of the things that most people have had to go through in order to build a company, and we're very stable and really now looking at our stride. And of course, the book is out, and we've got the podcast, and I think we're getting the attention that's needed to give people really what they need, which is some relief on how to do this stuff, and that's why I sort of started it.
Well, great. So, let's kind of dive into this, because I'm really curious to see your strategy and sort of your thoughts on how you will, I guess, prescribe a marketing strategy to your clients. So we've got the presentation here. So
yeah, and the prescribing and the sort of general terms around the medical industry, I try and not be so cliche about it. So I'll limit that to diagnosis and prescribing. From there on, and we'll just use regular terminology.
All right.
So, what we really thought about, and we had actually started a secondary offering out there called Practice Bloom. That's why you'll see this in the bottom of this. And it's basically we made our original company, Customer Bloom. We had a separate medical division called Practice Bloom to develop these patient engines, as we call them. And really what that ended up doing was giving us the ability to sort of maximize profits for clients who came to us with a requirement to build out their patient engagement strategy. And we thought that really the strategy that we left in this space as we kind of migrated all of our stuff underneath Customer Bloom now as a main header brand, because Customer Bloom's our main focus and it encompasses medical. But this whole process of getting people to think through the customer journey was really what we wanted people to evangelize to their internal staff and work through trying to get adherence to what's going on in the market today. One of the biggest challenges that I think practitioners have is they just can't see the forest through the trees, right? So the question is, what makes the most sense? And we've been at this for quite a while, and we've been sort of whittling this down, and we've made basically this patient engine, or we call it now a profit engine, because really it comes down to, for most practitioners, what is my cost per acquisition for a new patient, whether they're in a medical spa, or if they're a medical doctor, or if they're again, there's so many different variations. And then how do we then tie it back to the brand? How do we make sure reputation is taken care of? So this whole chain of events is really what I wanted to step you through. And this presentation is sort of a living, breathing document, and we're always sort of refining it. And I'll get to the interesting things as we get through it, but I'd like to take you through just the basics of what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do that.
All right, so really this is the engine. If you see this screenshot where it's the big blue buttons are offer, landing page, and conversion. Now, these three main thoughts are basically that the journey starts a lot with the phone. 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 people start with an environment where they're on a phone, they're on the run, they're thumbing through. My best way to let's put it this way. The phone is now the TV, and that's really what the whole world is coming to, is that the TV is now the radio, the phone is now the TV, and that's where most people get a lot of their information and start their journey. So we have to look at that at 8 out of 10, 7 out of 10 people start there. And how are you attracting them? Well, a lot of it's done by an offer. So in this particular case, I'm going to just show you, this is a lot of the stuff that's in here is going to be more medical spa related. Just I think it really makes people understand the modalities here, but you could do anything. We do spine doctors, we do surgeries for different types of environments with chiros and PTs, and we work with a lot of PAs and medical groups in order to help them understand this. So the first thing is we look at an offer. And so if I go into this, in this particular case, it's just a short, clear, desirable offer for your customers. And again, as I mentioned before, we're just going to kind of go down one vein so it makes sense. And you can see that there's, in this case, it's 15% off your first visit. So again, that would be a paid ad, and that's sort of where we look at the one structure. Or here's 20% off of this this facelift, and that's a good indication of sort of another example, and three true sculpt sessions for $1,200. Again, just really looking at what are the offers. Then again, these are things that start with the process of what's the offer. And we have folks that use offers that are not percentage off or dollar amounts. They're just free MRI. It could be a variation of some sort of offer that's in the market that they see that a competitor is running, something that gets someone's attention, right? That's the whole point, is to say, how can we get someone to stop and start to, look at the practitioner's advertising. Now, most of that's done through paid ads. So again, you can see in paid ads, we'll take that same example, and we can see here's an example of again, receive $50 off of these services, and that's a Facebook ad. And again, we use a lot of Facebook advertising because it just totally right now is where the market's playing. You can see here's another one. Again, those are veins. Again, we're going to the point where we're just showing these specific individual shots of ads, and I'm trying to get sort of the thought process around that. We use a couple of different variations of a theme, but Instagram, Facebook, and then running ads obviously in Google. And you can see here there's a peel treatment. Again, these are very specific to this I guess you could say medical spa, because we have to do one vertical here in order to put it all together.
Now, the one thing I've noticed, the recurring theme here is that these are all offers, and I think one of the mistakes that medical practices make is that they're confusing simple brand awareness, and they'll say, we're running Facebook all the time and nothing's happening, and you look and see what they're doing, and it's just like, hi, I'm Dr. Smith, welcome to the practice.
Well, the big issue is that if you know anything about Facebook advertising, none of the organic shows anymore, and that's the thing. People don't understand that the world today, Facebook is very, very quickly becoming the place to put advertising. So there's no room for you to basically have like that organic element so that someone who's connected to your Facebook page will see your organic stuff. It's almost like a 1 in 100 chance that actually will happen. But you can target demographically, you can target, zip codes, you can target age ranges and interests, and there's so many things you can do to now run an advertising campaign in Facebook. And although when you open up the console it looks like a space shuttle, that's why we probably are in business, because this stuff's complicated. But the concept is that you're actually approaching, you can just do like 10 zip codes around your office and start running advertising based off of your offers. Or you could even do what you just said, which is that you could actually put out branded material like, hey, this is our doctor and this is the staff and so forth. The question is what's the point? And exactly. I think when I talk to a lot of practitioners, it all comes down to, look, I need more patients. Period. End of story. You put people in the door. I need people in this waiting room waiting to get serviced. And there's a lot of pain out there. And ethically, I have a big, huge challenge when people don't take the emphasis with their practice to put it in the right spot where it can be used. You take an oath, you go through this process, you're going to be relieving people's pain, but somehow there's no one in the waiting room. And I've seen it time after time when we walk in and we're like, well, what's going on? Why is this place dead? And they're like, well, that's why you're here. I'm like, well, the whole point is, think about this as like it's your duty in a way to make sure that you're found. And it's very inexpensive to run pay-per-click and Facebook ads these days to get new patient acquisition started. You just have to do it and not give your money to the carriers, meaning, don't trust Google to do the right thing with your money, and don't trust Facebook directly to do things right with your money. You just need someone who's trained, and they'll help you through it, or go get yourself trained to do it properly. And the literally, the cost per lead is very approachable. So I hope that helps kind of get through that process of understanding why it's important to run ads as opposed to just expecting organic stuff to happen in Facebook especially.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the other part to think about is the content. So again, I'll just bring up content as a function. The process of having paid ads, content on your blog or content on your website being consistently produced, so you're actually getting people finding you in Google organically from some sort of process of getting good solid content out to the engines is great. The other thing to do is obviously to use email. So if you have an email marketing list, in this case you can see we've sent out tons of email marketing to existing customer base emails, which could be part of it. You can see there's ways to do this. This is the one that really surprised us with this puppet about TextNet in chiropractic services. It got viral and went like to 50,000 views, which is just, it blew my mind that people actually look at these silly things. And same thing when the Kardashians started doing vampire facelifts, everybody jumped on it, and people were making really like hundreds of thousands of dollars in a couple of months after, following some of the leaders in this space who are, unfortunately we're in a, culture that celebrates celebrity. So you can do that. Again, I could go through a lot of different email marketing techniques, but that's really, if you looked at the sort of going back to the offer, so come up with your offer, use these 3 channels, email marketing, paid ads, and content, and you can even buy, email lists if you want. But those 3 things now go to that landing page, right? And that landing page, again, I'll go back. Here's the landing page. So now we've got the content out there. We're running ads, and where do they go? Well, they go to a landing page with the offer, and you have to make it super addressable to the particular client. And you can see these are big, bold pictures with very easy to use framework. Same thing here. See, I'm just kind of dovetailing on the stuff that you just saw before, which was the offer in the advertising stream, and then you've got it now, right into the landing page. Now, these landing pages can exist in a website. They can exist within Facebook. They can exist within a secondary domain, meaning they can just be out on the web somewhere. But the whole point is you're getting an email and a phone number to claim the offer. In most of these cases, as you can see.
So one comment to make about the emails that practices need to be aware of, medical practices in particular, is now that most are probably using electronic medical record systems, and these have sort of built-in systems for recall or scheduling notifications, things like that, that patients are becoming increasingly comfortable giving their mobile phone number for texting or their email address, but it's important to keep that distinct from their marketing list, and actually some of the systems will have a way to opt the patient in at that time for marketing, because otherwise they can run afoul with HIPAA issues of giving permission just to contact them for an appointment or something like that, and then if they start to get offers for marketing, the practices potentially can run afoul of that.
Yeah, we went through this like literally all the time, and there's so many easy ways to set this up so that you actually have to kind of divide and conquer. Most of the time, the outbound lists are different than the inbound lists. It just depends on the practitioner and what they're doing, right? There's certain barriers that we always have to work with. But at the end of the day, when you're really talking about most of this, it's more about the ad strategy getting new clients, meaning that the existing email list is great if you're going back towards, again, retargeting or rebuilding either an offer or another strategy for a client to get rid of an illness that is out there or a pain point. But the majority of the stuff is really running, good, solid Facebook ads, good, solid Google ads.
Prospecting for new patients.
Yeah, I mean, because I always get in the same discussion, which is it a can of beans on the shelf that you're pulling off, or are you going to a new store? And I think that's the real process of, building new referral bases, which is getting new clients in the door that build new referral structures. And that's the real win. And this is where these guys make a lot of money, because they get that first initial client. And I've seen people from like the MTV people come through these, we had like JWoww who came through and went to one of our practitioners for some sort of pico lasering thing. And, 20,000 people now see this. It's just, you start these referral chains that just go crazy. So now we've talked about the offer. We've talked about the ways to get people to get to the offer. Now we're at the landing page. And so now we're at the offer claim. So now that they've gotten through this process, we have the offer claim. So again, in this particular case, we just see basically the name, email, desired date of appointment. Now, one of the things you have to consider from a practitioner standpoint is we can go right to scheduling. So with some of the practitioners and the systems they have, we can either coordinate with the API, which is the the plug-in to their calendaring function, and we can literally put people on calendars. Now it depends on what your, there's always insurance deliverables, and there's other things that are involved. But a lot of the time, just getting someone to commit to a time and then getting them on the calendar and plan it, like a week in advance or a couple days in advance, and being able to get back to that patient and saying, hey, we saw that you booked at 8 a.m. on Thursday. We actually that already got booked up. Can we put you at another time? So there's a way around even getting people beyond the schedule. If you can at least get them to commit themselves to come down, or get into a chair or get into the waiting room and get started. That's 99.9% of everything. It's just like getting them to commit. They've mentally and emotionally crossed the line. They're on their way. Once you have them signed up and you get a date, it's really not going back from there. Your conversion rates are very high. And that's sort of the conversion, right? So either we're getting the offer claim going directly to an email and a phone number, which goes into the office, and you have a PA or a support person, a front desk person calling that person up to set the date, or the date's being directly set on their calendar from that inbound offer landing page, right? So that's what's happening. And what we're really starting to see now is the abandonment of it's amazing, but the abandonment of the call-in function. People just say, hey, look, if you can get these people on my calendar, just start booking them, because I can go back in and make changes when necessary, but I'd rather adapt my schedule for people coming on, especially for practices that are kind of avant-garde or really want to get aggressive in marketing themselves and getting people on their calendar. Booking a week out is not such a big thing, as long as you have the spaces blocked off where obviously you already have appointments and stuff like that. And those calendaring functions, so easy to integrate, especially if you're using like a Gmail calendar, because all this stuff is sort of open-ended. And I don't want to use a technical term, but the API or the basically automated program interface between a lot of the things now, meaning that your scheduling and your email and some of these applications that we're going through right now, it's all tied together. So it's like a technology stack you can build so that everything is all working together, and you don't have to fight 3 or 4 different systems. You can actually have the patient book and go right into your deck and start to, support them.
So basically what you're saying is, rather than, blast out this phone number and run the risk of someone calling, getting either a busy signal or getting put on hold and dropping out, it's better to just allow them to make that first decision or commitment and schedule something. You can always go back and vet that person. Maybe they're not a candidate for that, and we'll sometimes deal with that with LASIK. We'll have a 70-something-year-old call for LASIK, and they're not a candidate. But if they kind of make that first commitment, you can always circle back and redirect them if necessary. Better than risk them having to call in and maybe drop out and lose that patient forever.
Yeah, there's a bunch of variations of a theme in there, which you just said, but it's really, the world's changing very quickly, right? I was ordering pizza last night, and I don't call. I just went online and ordered it. You have to think patient first. They're in their car driving. They're using their thumb. How easy can they make an appointment, right? That's the real win, right? Because you become the frictionless barrier for the customer. That or the patient. That is the real thing that's going to happen, is that how frictionless can you make the offer to the landing page to the appointment? Some people are very comfortable, and that puts them into the lead. Now, I'm not going to say that this works all the time. Obviously, there's insurance and there's qualifications and there's all sorts of things. But majority of the people, you're going to work around trying to get them more apt into the chair, or get them out to another referral if they're not the right fit, or if you don't take that insurance, or whatever it might be. There's other things that are involved that also are wins. But the consistent overture has always been, how easy can we make it to get through conversion? So now, that was the next step, is now that we've got conversion, so we've got them to give us an inbound form that's basically an email and phone number, or you've got them on the schedule. Well, the next thing we want to really look at is we want to consider some of the things that happen in the mid area. So sometimes, as soon as they get that claim, they get that offer, you want to send them an email that says, hey, thanks for getting in touch with us. We'll get started with you. There's many things you can do, and we have a lot of formatting that goes behind this. So once they've gotten into even the format of into the offer claim. If it's a percentage discount off or something that's of a nature where they can actually deliver something to the patient, as in a coupon code or something like that, you can actually see we've built these email chains, that involve, here comes the person coming into the engine, here's the new lead. We send an email to say, hey, thanks for signing up, and looking forward to meeting with you. And then we actually send out like a video testimonial specific to that case. So if it's a specific case, in this case, we're dealing with a spine surgeon. And then we're sort of now, waiting time 2 days. If they don't show up, we'll send them another email with another report. And again, in this particular case, we're looking for, a lumbar spondylosis and a report on it. So we're really sort of following up with people as well, so that they feel like there's a real indication that there's some support here from a real kind of closed loop system. Hey, I went through, I found the offer, I hit the landing page, I got the claim, I'm ready to take an appointment, and then they sent me an email really specific to my case. And then we're in the case of a lot of the clients that we're working with, is that we'll start to retarget them as well. So we'll start to retarget them in Facebook. And you can see in this case, once we've got a claim offer, or we've got, starting to make sure that they're situated within the framework of the engine, we can start to send them retargeting ads because they've touched the pages. So whenever you touch a landing page or a Facebook ad, the algorithm will know basically what to send you, because it's going to pixel you. And again, I'm not going to use technical terms here, but basically they just put a little dot in your browser that will allow people to then, from our side, from our staff, to rebuild ad structure based off of that path that they came through.
And that's why when you're on your Gmail and you say you start to see ads pop up when you're looking at your Gmail account, it's like, that's the stuff I was looking at yesterday on Amazon. Yeah, and again, there's so many little tricks in the middle here that continue the process of providing value to the patient, right? At the end of the day, if the patient's not getting the right value, you're not going to get the closure, and you're not going to get the conversion. So whether they're coming through, directly to, set up an appointment, you got their phone number, or if you're just giving them an offer, which might be a coupon or a percentage off, or again, it could be anything from A to Z. We want to take them through the retargeting. We want to build them right back into this sort of, closed loop where we hit them with retargeting, then they click it again. We come back to the claim. Again, all of this works. And once we capture the email from a marketing standpoint and they haven't converted yet, we can still go right back from the retargeting and email them out that same exact landing page again and try and get them through. So it's a closed loop system. Now, the one thing you also want to consider, really for a lot of these practitioners, is also when you get to advocacy. So you want to think about, after they've gotten through the whole process of finally coming in for a appointment, is making sure that you capture the advocacy, right? So we want to take them through also, once we have their email and they've had a great visit, we want to make sure we have a follow-up system that asks about their experience and gets them to put in a review. And this is all automated, so it basically follows the customer up based off of this engine. And you can see in this particular case, this person has 150 reviews. And that's the whole concept, is to start to get the process of advocacy built into your social media marketing strategy. And all this stuff reports back to a centralized reporting tool, which I can actually take you through in live if you want to really see it. Yeah, let's look at it.
And I think you'd find this fascinating, because I do. And so I'll jump out of this. But this is the engine. This is the patient engine or profit engine. All these pieces combined, if you can see this in your video, make for what we find as being a very effective, very inexpensive, and super value chain oriented for the patient system. So I'm going to show you just a quick review of a reporting tool which will show us what's actually getting delivered from this particular engine. And we'll pick one of the clients out that we've kind of run through here. And I think it'll be interesting to the audience to see this as well. So you have any questions?
Well, yeah, I was going to make a comment that you're talking about the reporting and the value, and I think that that's often something that physicians or medical practices don't really ask. They'll get a so-called digital marketing agency that comes in and they'll do magazines and stuff, and they'll say, look, we're running your ads in the magazine, we're running things on your Facebook, you're getting a lot of likes, and doctors like to see pictures of themselves, and then but at the end of the day, how much are you getting for your marketing dollars? What's the return on that investment? And obviously not everything can be tracked, but as best as it can be, those are the questions you need to be asking. What am I getting for my marketing investment dollar?
Yeah, and the larger question, which we are now dealing with, really the impact of what is the cost per acquisition. So we can report on the stuff you'll see here, which are very, very specific elements of a campaign. But a lot of the challenges come through how do you tune the engine, right? So we can build the engine and we can build all that infrastructure I just showed you, but then how do you tune that engine to run as efficiently as it can? That is our job. I mean, that's really, besides building the engine and doing all the, creative ad work and all the building and content, tuning the engine is really the fine art of this business. And we'll get into that in just a couple of seconds. But I wanted to show you I'll show you this one in another reporting dashboard. So this is basically what we call our profit engines dashboard. Now you can see in the last couple of 90 days here, this particular practitioner is a spine surgeon, has gotten 274 phone calls, 57 pain assessment, and I'll show you that as well, pain assessment tool submissions. That's a very interesting tool. Some direct consultations, again, another pain assessment tool category, direct contact forms on the side of the website in the last 30 days. Percentage of new users coming to the site is 87%. You can see the impressions for this particular site being found are going up. They've had 6,100 clicks in the last 90 days. They're constantly getting, a couple to 3 new Facebook likes per day, and some of the other elements here. But what I wanted to show you was probably the more important, was maybe showing you some of the more specific stuff for a practitioner that maybe is, again, I'm just pulling this stuff up out of the blue, but you can see here's another one with 114 phone calls. 74 were first-time calls in the last 30 days. They had 13 submissions here, 26 forms. And we can see they got 214 first visit promo claims in 30 days. So you can understand that as you sort of look at some of this stuff where you can really start to think, like, what do we want to go after? What's your practice specialty, and what do you want to go after? In this case, they're going after cool sculpting promo claims right now. But what I was going to show you, just one last thing, I think it would be important, and then we can do a quick Q&A. But, I showed you this pain assessment tool, and I'll show you one of our end users that uses this as a way to get people into the office very specifically. We were running into insurance problems quite a bit with this doctor, and we had to come up with a unique way to get around the problems with a lot of the issues around the the Medicaid, Medicare, Obamacare, all this stuff. So he really wanted to have top insurance related people come in from a practice. And you have to be very careful how you word this stuff. Of course, you can't ever defer anybody, but you can start to go after people that are more qualified by using these things. So this free pain assessment, which is right on the front of the site, and where we usually basically add in, hey, where does it hurt? Right. So now someone comes in here and says, where does it hurt? Great. That's what I want. You go to the pain assessment, and what it does is it says, tell us about your pain. Let's say I've got middle back pain. It's strongest in my lower and middle back. It's been 7 to 12 months since I've had this. Next. I've had sharp and burning pains. Yes, it's worsening. I have numbness. Next. Okay. Have you done any? I've had an MRI. I've had an X-ray. I've had some other stuff. And now we go to the next phase. Great. Now, what's your insurance plan?
Oh, okay.
Okay. So now so you've engaged the patient to some degree, right? So you're at the point where they're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I have Horizon Cross. Great. I need an appointment, right? And so now it goes to the next phase. Now you can put in your information and it says get your results now. And then what we can do is, based off of what we built into the system here for this pain assessment tool, we can send them specific information based off of what they had checked off and get them into an appointment. So they can get a little sort of, taste, and then they understand. This is like really literally taking a doctor's sort of bedside manner and bringing it to the website. And now they've got a little bit of taste. There's some engagement. There's an insurance phase in there, so the doctor can understand the level of clarity around is it the right patient or is it not, or how should we do this, should we get it off to another. A lot of the times they're taking the stuff that they can't handle and just putting it over to referrals and people who do the work where they don't do the work. So that's a good example of sort of combining, right, the strategy, which was the patient engine model that we showed before, and then putting in a unique twist to it where we use a pain assessment tool as part of it. So we're using ads to run right to this pain assessment to segment and bucket the people into the right categories.
And again, also getting that kind of micro commitment, so you're not depending on a call center person or someone to assess the patient. Just get them into your system and then have somebody with a little more technical background perhaps vet the person.
Yeah, and one of the things that's interesting, I mean, we've put a ton of work into doing testimonials, is once you get someone to go through this pain assessment tool and it's specific, so it's like, oh, it's all lower back, well, then you send them out an email with a testimonial about people who have had lower back pain solved by this particular doctor, and it relates right to that particular patient's pain. So it's almost like you've got to also think about segmenting your results and segmenting your story, and that works also in the patient engines model where we run ads with retargeting bucketed right towards that person's pain. So when they click on, hey, I've got back pain or I've got lower back pain, we'll follow them up with a specific set of ads that are really relatable to their particular pain or their case. And that's when it starts to convert better, because you're actually not broad matching, hey, we're this doctor and we have this specialty. No, we're this doctor, we have this specialty, and this is your pain, and this is the stuff that we've done, and here's the testimonials, and here's all the things that we know about this. And you're really hitting them with retargeting that's based off of that criteria that they're looking to solve, not necessarily, a broad match. And I think that's the big market miss right now, which is that most people just have broad matched ads just to kind of cover the market, where we say that is the sort of old way to do it. It's like running a TV commercial. It's like you can't get specific in a TV commercial, but you can get specific when you have people who are telling you, hey, here's my pain, this is what I have, and I'm clicking on these ads for a reason because I have this particular pain. Well, don't send me the broad match stuff. Send me something specific.
And that's something that is very common in our field in ophthalmology, is that if you do this broad brush sort of advertising, welcome to our practice, then you're getting patients who've already had surgery. You're getting patients that aren't particularly interested in what the specific procedure that you're offering. So that makes a lot of sense, that you really want to be getting as specific as possible.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say, and this is the special sauce that we, I think, deliver that's very interesting, that maybe somebody on this podcast who might be listening would be tickled about or interested. We look every week at the costs that come in for the ad spends in Facebook and Bing and Google and whatever, and we're actually going in and each individual ad spend in each one of these specific engines and into each components of the engines, and trying to figure out why like one particular spend is or cost per click or cost per acquisition, as we kind of get to, is higher than another practitioner's cost per acquisition in the same field. So we'll see something that's like, why is this one $48 and why is this one $28? How can we get this 48 down to 28 or 48 or somewhere lower? Because we can see every time we model this, we get better at trying to participate in the market and in the spaces. Sometimes it's geo-targeted issues. Sometimes it's ad copy. Sometimes it's just unique things about the practice that we don't know. And we can actually go back to the practitioners and ask them, hey, we're trying to figure this out. Are the things we don't know? And sometimes we find some field evidence that we don't know about that comes into our fold that we can actually add to the flavor besides, changing ad copy and changing up headlines and stuff like that. So we're actually tuning these engines weekly, and that's a huge plus because I haven't heard anybody who does this. So I hope that we're unique in that aspect.
Now, are you also you were mentioning the difference between the paid social media, Facebook ads, and the organic social media? Do you work with a practice to integrate those two, or do you basically say, you pretty much you're free to do whatever you want on your Facebook page? We're taking the prospects to landing pages and things like that, so that's not really integrated with their social media on the organic side.
I would say 90% of the time we're doing the organic posts too because they just want them. And that's, just something that we have historically done for years. And we, with a lot of these practices we started 4 or 5 years ago, and that was sort of fine. It was like everybody just did organic posting to keep a, Facebook page or an Instagram page or any of the social media platforms looking like they're tumbleweeds, in the wind. And
exactly,
I think that's just been something that we've done traditionally, and so we still do all the organic posting for most of the practitioners. We get their voice. We understand their how they want to present themselves from a level of do they want to add a little humor? Do they not? Do they want to be serious? Do they want to be academic? Everybody's a little different. When you work with different practitioners, everybody has a different style, so we try to match it to that, and that's a variant. But we also say, look, it's not like we're the end all. You could certainly post as well, And we've actually gone back to our practitioners and said, the real value here is just working with your team. And a lot of the time, it's just them sending us stuff and us posting it. And that's a big plus because they don't have to do anything. They're like, hey, we had this great experience, or we have this, charity event, or we have all sorts of stuff. We still kind of do most of the organic. And there's a value to it from a end user, from a doctor level, because I think most doctors and most practitioners, they just want to see activity as well. They want to make sure that they're keeping up. Again, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not going to really drive patient value from a perspective of running real ads, because those are actually going to talk to new patients, and that's what the whole thing is.
Now, as far as the metrics that you showed on the dashboard, how do you track the calls? I know a lot of practices, call centers. There's now software that can do that. Is that also through like an API, or are there forms that the call centers fill out?
Well, it's not necessarily call centers. We don't really use call centers. We haven't had any doctors really want us to approach them and say, hey, we're going to send stuff to a person that is not part of your practice. What we do is track everything through call tracking systems. So inbound calls coming in are basically going through a system that is providing a number that's out there either in an ad or on a separate landing page, and those numbers are being traced and tracked through a centralized tool. I can actually show you if you wanted to see it, if there's any interest. And those calls can be recorded if needed for helping the front staff close better. And that's one of the things we always notice is that we're usually training or helping train people understand how to handle calls, because a lot of the stuff when you start running ads is all about how do you get the person to commit. And most front-end staff really just haven't had that sales training. That's not the way they think. They're kind of used to referral stuff, and it's more about just trying to get them to think like, hey, get the name, get the phone number, and then work through the process. But the good thing is if you track it and you take the recordings, you can fix things. But the most important thing at the end is that you're tracking also keywords and stuff that's coming through. So when you run Google Ads especially, you can actually see what keywords are being put into the browser by the end user, because it's being tracked right from the ads. So it goes from, hey, I have bulging disc problem, nearest spine surgeon, and then that keyword gets actually transmitted through the system and the tools back to the centralized reporting system. And again, I could go through that real quickly if you want to see it, but to me, if I'm a practitioner, what's most important that I would want to make sure is my staff handling these calls, because I'm spending money on these leads coming in. Are they doing the right thing? And we go through these on a monthly basis and go through and pick out things that we notice that are like problem areas, where we know that maybe the staff wasn't awake
Yeah.
or didn't pick up, or just was grumpy. There's certainly things that, get that 10 to 15% lift on conversions just by having someone look at the stuff, listen to it, and give some pointers. And more importantly than all of that is to tell the staff we're listening. Because once the staff knows that you're on top of this and that someone's actually big brothering the whole thing, boy, do they stay attention. It's amazing what happens.
Yeah, what is that? What don't expect what you can't inspect.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, listen, Matt, this is great stuff. I really appreciate you spending time with us. If someone was interested in reaching out to you to get more information about your company and your services, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, certainly you can just go to customerbloom.com, and that's the best way. Just click on the site, give us a call, our phone number, and everything's there. Just reach out to us that way. You certainly can always get in touch with our office here directly. My email is matt.coffee, COFFY, @customerbloom, and hit me up on email. I'm readily available. And again, the bigger thing here is if you just have a question, or, we're not here to try and be this sales shop. I mean, we're just here to help people. And don't be afraid to ask questions, because, we'll be super helpful in helping you maybe make some guided decisions. We work with a lot of coaches in this space, which is interesting now, where coaches come to us for helping their clients. And we're certainly available to, be as frank as possible, and also, give you some of our experience and help you build your practice and grow your practice. And our whole goal is to make sure that we're being completely transparent on everything that we do to give as much information to the market on what we're finding as being, the market, movers, which are the patients themselves and what they're doing today. And they are just all over Facebook, and they're all over Instagram, and they're all over, mobile advertising. So that's the real key. So if you can bring that home, take everything you got and make sure it works good on a phone. That's my last point of advice here.
Oh, great. A great way to end that. So thanks again. Thanks so much.
Yep. Great.